Hey guys, this is Rebecca Barnes. I decided to do my presentation on the removal of the Indians, otherwise bestly known as the Trail of Tears. So let's get started. Okay, what was the Indian Removal Act? The Indian Removal Act was where President Andrew Jackson decided to sign a law saying that the Native Indians living on the east side of the Mississippi River had to relocate themselves on the west side of the river. And that law was passed on May 26, 1830. Who did the Indian Removal Act affect? Well, the Indian Removal Act affected many different tribes. Some of the tribes it affected were the Cherokee Indians, the Creek Indians, and the Choctaw Indians. And here is a short little video on the removal of the Indians.
The first major piece of legislation that he recommended and got passed was the Indian Removal Act of 1830.
This act empowered Jackson to forcibly evict all the Indian tribes living east of the Mississippi River. 5 Indian nations were directly affected: the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Seminole, and Cherokee. Of the 5, the Cherokee tribe, located in Georgia, chose to fight the eviction in a surprising way.
Instead of going on the warpath the way their fathers and grandfathers might have done, this generation of Cherokee Indians took Georgia to court.
The case went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. In an historic decision, Chief Justice John Marshall ruled in favor of the Cherokee, saying they did not have to move. But Andrew Jackson thought differently.
Jackson said of Marshall, he made his ruling, now let him enforce it.
The result was that they were rounded up at gunpoint and forced to move. Their property was seized, and they were forced west. Of course, on the Cherokees' forced march, about 1 out of every 4 Cherokees died en route, which is why they call it the Trail of Tears.
It is, without a doubt, the most controversial decision Jackson would make in his career, and is one of the saddest chapters in American history.
So that was a little video on the Trail of Tears. Alright, so moving on. Next I'm going to talk about the Cherokee, the Creek, and the Trail of Tears. So the Cherokee, the Creek, and Indians are 2 of the best known tribes. They are famous for the Trail of Tears. The Indian Removal Act is also known as the Trail of Tears. It is a very sad, heartbreaking story. I found out that 4,000 of the 15,000 Indians died on the Trail of Tears. Many of them died from malnutrition, disease, and exposure. When did the Trail of Tears happen? Well, the Trail of Tears happened from 1830 until 1838. Where did it happen? Well, the Indians started out in Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. After they took their voyage on the Trail of Tears, they ended up living in modern-day Oklahoma and parts of Kansas. One of my family history tidbits is that my great-grandfather and his family were from the Creek Indian tribe, and they also did the Trail of Tears. They moved from Alabama all the way to Oklahoma. I also have a great-uncle that was born right after they got to the Indian reservations. That's just something cool about my family history. Why were the Indians removed rather than assimilated? Well, it was a lot easier for the Americans to just remove them rather than assimilate them. The Americans weren't really sure of the Indians because they were different than them. They didn't want to accept the Indians into their territory, even though, theoretically, the Indians did live there first. How did the Americans' view of the Indians affect their response to Indian removal? Well, a lot of the Americans thought of the Indians as savages and terrorists, so it was a lot harder for the Americans to bring the Indians to the reservations rather than just, say, killing them. Alright, and these are my resources. I used Wikipedia and YouTube. And that is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Bye!